join in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll adopt our agenda and we'll move forward with our program for tonight. So, our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come here to this place this afternoon, this evening, to conduct the business of our city. We ask that your wisdom to reign over this meeting and the conversations or any action that may take place during our time that we're here together. We just pray that the meeting will have a positive impact on the city of Roanoke Rapids in the days to come. These words we lift up to you, and we continue to strive to be more in the likeness, the image of you, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is to approve the business agenda. We do have some changes that need to be made. I would need a motion. It's item 6A and 6G, it looks like. Need a motion on those two items to approve the agenda as it is amended.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to remove 6A from the business agenda, table it to a later date, and to remove 6G from the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Stain, back with Councilman Bell. Councilman Bell makes a second. Is there any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, no. The motion will be approved. The agenda is approved as it is amended. Under public comment, we do have several individuals that have signed up tonight. Mr. Brodsky. Good afternoon, Ephraim.
I'm just going to set up my timer. Good afternoon. My name is Ephraim Brodsky. I live at 936 East 7th Street in Roanoke Rapids, and I'd like to talk a little bit today about deferred maintenance. We are now in January 2026. In June of 2025, we were told that there was going to be a 5-year plan that was going to be presented to the citizens. We're now 7 months into that 5-year plan, and we haven't heard anything. And what I'd like to hear from the city, and what I think everybody else would like to hear from, is the plan for the deferred maintenance. Because I've only been living here for 4 years. I just recently celebrated my 4-year anniversary of moving to this town. And every single year, when you look at the city council minutes, you see a recurring theme of deferred maintenance. It's being talked about, projects that are delayed, we can't fund them, the roads need to be repaired, the buildings need to be repaired. We have buildings that need to be demolished all over town, not just on the avenue. And we don't have the money to do it. How will we do it? What's the plan? 5 years is, we're there. We're 7 months into that 5 years and we haven't heard about it. Now, deferred maintenance is not a 4-letter word. It's the practice of postponing necessary maintenance and repairs. These are things that need to be done. These aren't optional endeavors. And I think today is a great time to talk about this, because today the state was out on 10th Street making repairs to the road. And what were they doing? They were doing something called sealing cracks, which is part of road maintenance. Every 3 years, approximately, they're supposed to go out and seal all the cracks, because if the cracks are not sealed, the roads become flooded, washed over, and more difficult to repair. But I don't see us doing much of that. And I actually asked our Director of Public Works last year, I said, do we have a maintenance schedule for our roads? Is there a master list, something that we could look at and say, okay, well, Holly Road hasn't been paved in X amount of years? And he said, no, we don't have something like that, because we don't have a lot of funds. We're relying on the Powell bill to repair our roads. And the Powell bill is about $600,000 a year. That $600,000 a year doesn't go that far when we're covering 91 miles of roads that we're responsible for in the city limits. 91 miles. And honestly, that's what separates the city from the county. The county's not responsible for road maintenance, but the city is. And we're not taking care of our roads. We're also not taking care of our buildings. One of the things that makes this community proud is our youth sports. Parents of school-age children spend a lot of time at the ball fields, a lot of time at our recreation facilities, and all of them are falling apart. Yeah, we have great athletic programs, mostly run by volunteers. They used to all be run by the city 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Slowly, we've just been kicking them to the curb. There's no money to fund this. There's no money to fund that. Let's cut one more service. Let's cut some more. And then we talk about attrition, about people moving away, about people not wanting to move back. And you think, why is that happening? Could it have something to do with all the deferred maintenance, with all the cuts? Now I get it. You know, we live in rural eastern North Carolina. There's not a lot of money there. We don't have Rocky Mount's budget. Rocky Mount has a $300 million budget. Our budget is $18, $19 million. Not a lot of room there. We don't have a lot of funding mechanisms to make money in our town, right? We don't control our water. We don't control our electricity. Our funding mechanism is predominantly our ad valorem property taxes and whatever we get from the state, county, and federal government. But there's room. We have some things that we can cut, and we wouldn't lose anything. In fact, our largest expense of our $19.8 million budget was public safety. And right after me, there's going to be somebody that's going to come up here, a first responder, and he's going to ask you guys for money. But I'll tell you, we spent 40% of our budget. 40% of our approved budget for June went towards public safety. 40%. That's almost all of our ad valorem, by the way. And where does that leave us? Are we a public safety first town? Because we need to take drastic action in our budget to start addressing our deferred maintenance. We need to look at the parks, the recreation facility, the roads. The roads are important. They're very important. The citizens need to see our elected officials acknowledge this. They need to see the conditions and they need to report on them. And we need to hear about that. We want to know what the vision and the plan is for all of these things to get the facilities up to date. TJ Davis, my kids play rec basketball there, has no air conditioning, has no working heater. They have an industrial fan that's supposed to suck the air out. It hasn't worked in 3 years. The front door is broken and has been for 6 weeks now. And the paint is chipping. There's holes in the roof. When you walk around the track up top, you could see them. So, I mean, do we want to just be a law enforcement and first responder community? Or do we want to show our dedication to the education, health, wellness, and enrichment of our town? That's it. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mr. Brodsky. Mr. Pittman?
First off, I would like to say thank you for allowing me to come today. I'm here with the Roanoke Valley Rescue Squad to talk about our proposal for our tax increase. The Roanoke Valley Rescue Squad respectfully submits this statement in supporting of an increase into our current rescue tax, the 1 cent to 5 cent in the next 5 years, to ensure the continued ability of the Roanoke Valley Rescue Squad to provide high-quality emergency rescue services. We propose a gradual increase of the rescue tax to 5 cents. That's a total of 4 additional cents to the current rate, gradually over 5 years. This phased approach minimizes financial impact on residents while improving stability, predictable funding for critical life-saving operations. This adjustment is necessary to ensure the continued ability of the rescue squad to meet growing emergency service needs of the community while maintaining safety, professionalism, and reliable operations. The Roanoke Valley Rescue Squad's short-term goal is to add an additional 2 cent tax on the current rate and gradually increase the tax rate to 5 cents over the next 5 years as a long-term goal. The 2 cent additional tax would go towards replacing the current 21-year-old heavy rescue truck so that the Roanoke Valley Rescue Squad could better serve the community of Roanoke Rapids. During the calendar year of 2025, the Roanoke Valley Rescue Squad responded to 1,079 calls for emergency services, demonstrating the significant and reliability of the community places on the rescue operations. 3.6% of those calls were answered in Halifax County, while the other 96.4% of the calls were answered within the city limits of Roanoke Rapids. These calls include 748 first responder calls, 206 motor vehicle accidents, 8 vehicle extrications, 68 calls assisting the Roanoke Rapids Fire Department, 39 calls backing up Halifax County EMS with sick-it-out ambulances, 2 water rescue calls, 1 search and rescue call, 6 standby for assignments for community service, and 1 cancellation while en route. These numbers reflect only the volume of calls, but the complexity and risk involved in many of these incidents. Motor vehicle accidents and extrication require specialty equipment, extensive training, and coordination between multiple agencies. Medical first responder calls demand rapid response times and properly maintained equipment. As these calls increase, so do the operational costs associated with responding safely and efficiently. The current 1 cent tax is no longer sufficient funding to support modern rescue operations. Costs for emergency services has risen significantly over the years, including replacing and maintenance of vehicles, extrication and stabilization equipment, personal protective equipment, medical supplies, training of rescue personnel, fuel, insurance, and routine operation expenses. While the rescue squad continues to operate responsibly and effectively, the existing funding levels limits the ability to replace aging equipment, plan for future needs, and maintain readiness without relying heavily on grants and fundraising. The Roanoke Valley Rescue Squad has reached out to the County of Halifax to try to get funding, with little help, and being directed toward grants programs that the county offers. Grant funding, while helpful, is not guaranteed and should not be a primary means of sustaining essential public safety services. The Roanoke Valley Rescue Squad remains committed to serve the community with the professional dedication and accountability. However, the current funding model is no longer sustainable, given the raising call volume and increased operation demands. Raising the tax from 1 cent to 5 cents gradually over the next 5 years is responsible and necessary step to ensure the continued protection of the citizens and visitors in Roanoke Rapids. By approving this increase in the short term of an additional 2 cents on the current rate and gradually to 5 cents over the next 5 years, the City Council will be making a direct investment in public safety, responder readiness, and the well-being of our community as a whole. When emergencies occur, citizens expect help to arrive quickly, equipped, and prepared. This tax increase helps ensure the expectations continue to be met.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's a good report. Mr. Davis on the unscheduled public comment.
Mayor, council guest, Joey Davis, Raleigh Street, Roanoke Rapids. First off, I was going to congratulate the guy from the Herald for putting the article in there about the gas prices around here. He's not here, but I see they went up for 30 cents a gallon today, so much for that. Secondly, I tell people, I come to these meetings, I sign up, I speak up, I talk. People don't want to come up here, but I tell them, better to come up here, speak your mind, use your mouth, don't let your fingers do the talking on Facebook. And the last thing I'm going to say is this here. I heard the last meeting, I wasn't here, and I heard a word I had to play the meeting back over. It was called code enforcement. I didn't know that existed in Roanoke Rapids. But I just wanted to ask, this house right here where you're talking about on 100 Hamilton Street, I know the people that live there. My daughter spent a lot of her childhood there. The house is in bad shape. The windows are out, the roof is fell in. But I can carry you around to other places in Roanoke Rapids. It's the same way. So that house down there on Hamilton, What do you say we put some caution tape up and just block that street off? Or any other place like that in town? And the last thing I'll say is sort of pick and choose houses to me. When you got that block downtown that's got a theater, another building halfway the block on that side, and the corner building's been closed off for 2 years, where the windows is out and the roof is collapsed. And nothing's done about it. So I think something needs to be done about that also. It reminds me of the old song, somebody's got a hold on somebody. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Item 5 is the approval of the city council minutes on December the 16th. We need a motion when someone would like to make one.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve December 16th, 2025 regular city council meetings as drafted.
Okay, motion by
Second.
Councilman Strickland and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Bryant. Any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion will be approved. Item 6, we will move on to 6B. Call on Mr. Bell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Evening.
Hope everybody's well. I'm going to take you through very quickly, look at this consideration of a demolition order for dilapidated residents. It brings me no pleasure at all to bring this before you today. 100 Hamilton Street is a historically significant property. I'm told it's the oldest dwelling, a residential dwelling in the city. Everybody pretty much knows it as the Turtleback. Everybody also notices as you drive by that the roof is collapsing, and that sort of demands attention. Where the dwelling began formal process back in 2023, I kind of took my time on it, to be perfectly honest, because I was hoping somebody might step up and try to save the property. But right now, I just don't think there's any saving it. There's the aerial. These are some shots from inside. The living room floor has collapsed almost completely. There's one beam holding the furniture that's still there up. That may have actually fallen in since I took this picture, but that just kind of gives you an idea of how it looks inside. This dwelling also, just to give you an idea, it's been sitting there abandoned for quite some time. Taxes haven't been paid on it since 2011. The city has almost $10,000 in nuisance abatement fees accrued as well, and almost $12,000 in taxes owed. That's a look at the exterior, the rear, and the hole in the roof. Again, that's the first thing I notice every time I drive by that house. I know a lot of other people have noticed that as well. These are more interior shots. Cody Carter from Public Works came with me to this hearing, and it was just unsafe to even go upstairs. We couldn't even make it through the living room to get to the stairs, and you can stand in the first floor and see the second floor. That second picture is actually from the front porch. You can stand on the front porch of this dwelling, which I do not recommend to anyone, and look up and see the bedrooms upstairs. Everything is open. The weather's getting in, critters getting in, all kinds of things. We've boarded up the place, obviously, to keep people from going inside. This is an abbreviated timeline, which you can see. The formal process began, hearing notice was sent to the media and to the owners, sent the findings of fact afterwards. The deadlines all passed without anything happening. Like I said, I kind of dragged my feet on it a little bit because of the fact that the house is so historically significant, and there's a lot of chatter all over town about it, and I was kind of hoping somebody might be able to step up and do something with it. But right now, we're just looking for a formal ordinance. And that's our requested action, just to adopt an ordinance, which would be a demolition order for 100 Hamilton Street. It's unfit for human habitation, and any occupation of it would be unlawful at the very best, unsafe, certainly. We didn't feel all that safe being in it ourselves. So that's my presentation. As I mentioned about the back taxes and the fees, nobody is taking care of this place. So that's before you and for your consideration. Anybody have any questions?
In the event that someone tried to take occupation of it, the $23,000, is there any way that can ever go away without having to pay it? I always heard no.
If it's a tax lien, then no. Now the city could work on the nuisance abatement, but as far as the tax aspect, no.
Well, in a situation like that, I mean, the law is the law, but that pretty much puts it where nobody's going to step out and, I mean, it's...
Precisely, I mean, the value of that is the tax liens exceed the...
It would probably be
marketable value
cheaper
of the
to reconstruct it than to rehabilitate it, I would think, or remodel it. Just take it down and build a replica of it, but that tax lien on it makes it, where really no one's going to... Why does it take so long to get it to this point?
Well, and there's a couple of things I want to add. I think Roger's done a fantastic job presenting this to council today. A couple things. Number one, of course, the city does not, we don't go after tax liens. That's the county does that. They administer the taxes for the city, and so they make the decisions on when to foreclose on property and attempt to collect on those tax liens. I suspect the reason they haven't done it in this case is because it's a complete losing proposition. I mean, the only way that they collect on those liens is through a foreclosure sale, and given the state of the property as it's been demonstrated today, nobody's going to buy that property for anything near those tax liens. So it's just, so from the county's perspective, they've got other things to focus on. I will say, I've lived in Roanoke Rapids most of my life. I've known about this house. It's kind of a shame to see something that really is a historic, and I don't mean that from like a legal designation, but more from just a designation of, we all know that it's the oldest residence in Roanoke Rapids. It's a shame to see something like that have to go, but there comes a point where you have to kind of move past the sentimental connections and kind of look at going ahead and resolving these matters. I will say too, and it kind of goes to something that Mr. Davis said, and I want to be kind of clear about this because I think there can be some confusion when you don't deal with this stuff every day amongst the public and saying, well, if you're going to go after it with respect to this residence, why can't you do it to why can't you do the same thing to the building there on Roanoke Avenue and 2nd Street, or some of these other business buildings? The distinction in this case is this is a minimum housing thing, and so that's specifically with residential property. The other thing too is you're looking at the amount of cost involved. To take a structure like this down is going to be it's going to be a lot less of a cost to the city than for a larger building that may have asbestos or other things in it. And then that's money that doesn't get, that the city never is able to materially collect on. I mean, unless somebody were to come out and once this is cleared, buy the lot or something like that and pay off the liens, which, it's just not going to be, from a financial standpoint, doesn't seem like to me it's going to be feasible for anybody to do. It ends up being a loss to the city, to the extent that it never gets reimbursed. But in any case, I don't know if that answered your question. I know that was kind of rambling.
Well,
there's
I thought it should have been done when it was a small, if it was in bad shape and you could have foreclosed on it and taken, before it got in such bad shape. And then on the other hand, instead of letting it get in the shape it's in now and it's got the high taxes on it, if we would have taken it down 10 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever. It doesn't take much now to get $100,000, $150,000 on the tax books. So there is a way to recoup that money if you get a piece of a dwelling on. The other thing that comes to my mind, those lots are very narrow. And at one point, the mill houses, you couldn't rebuild on a mill house lot unless you had at least two of them, I think, with the single wide. Double wide is probably 100 feet. Single wide is like 30. And I don't know if we can change that zoning or code or whatever that is so that people could build back on a lot like that.
So going to what you said, as far as, doing it earlier, this property has obviously deteriorated since those tax liens started to accrue. The earlier you move back in that process, the less deterioration you have. And I know Mr. Bell is still at the podium and can correct me if I'm wrong, but, there comes a point where you cross a line where you have a minimum housing code violation. And before that point, we can't use these procedures to go after that. And if it's just tax liens in that situation, then that's really for the county tax office to perfect and go after.
And I'd like to speak to the history on the property as well. Mr. Bell indicates that, he started in 2023 and kind of slowly taking this forward. When I was hired by the city in 2011 as the Planning and Development Director, we were told, do not touch the Turtleback House. Leave it alone. They were expecting someone to come in and fix it up. So since 2011, we still haven't had anyone step up to the plate to do anything voluntarily to improve the property. So it has, matriculated over time, but also just as part of our processes and the legal due diligence that's required, we did run into some issues prior to 2023 where the status of the owner by name was unknown. We were unable to find a death certificate in the records. So there's, the presentation of an ordinance is kind of the final step in what can often be years of research and duty to inform heirs and inform owners and try to get someone to do something with it. And unfortunately, it has not been rescued.
That is something that, and I'm glad the city manager pointed that out. That is something when you're dealing with condemnation of property and tax foreclosures and things like that I don't think a lot of people realize, is you've got to provide notice, even in an MRIM proceeding, you've got to provide notice to the actual landowners. And so sometimes, especially with heir property, I have seen tax foreclosure actions that the county has done where the list of parties that they've had to notice go down one page and actually go on to a second one, because by that point there's so many heirs and it's become split up so much that there's just that many people who may have some kind of possessory interest that they've got to cover before they take it. Whether it's through this process under minimum housing code, whether it's through a tax foreclosure, any of those things where you're going to affect a piece of property and kind of exercise control over it, you've got to make sure that you properly identify the actual owners. And sometimes that can be difficult in derelict properties. It's relatively easy for a piece of property that somebody's living in. Usually they have an interest, usually either they own the property or they're paying rent to somebody that owns the property, or there's some other kind of way that that if that property is livable, that somebody has a possessory interest that they're exercising there and has an interest in making sure that is reflected in the real estate records and tax records. When you have a derelict property like this, that can serve as a kind of initial impediment and delay things. It can't delay it interminably. But it does kind of add to the difficulty of going after one of these things. I wish it was simpler.
I have one more addition. I want to draw your attention to Section 5 of Ordinance 2026.01 that states that should the property, in the opinion of the code enforcement officer, if the owner or someone were to rehab the dwelling to the extent it meets the requirements, the city council has the right to rescind the demolition ordinance. So I'll make the message clear. If there's someone out there that really wants to rehab or take care of this property, we're willing to allow the time to make that happen. Approval of this ordinance just gives us the authority to move forward to determine what the expenses of demolition might even be. But meanwhile, in the last several years and many years, our police department continues to get phone calls about children entering the property. And that is a significant concern of that entry into the property. But this will, should there be someone out there that's either listening or wants to become publicly aware, we would certainly work with someone to reverse this, if that could happen.
One last thing, and I know we're getting down in the weeds, but this is as much for council's benefit as the general public. But one of the things, too, about a demolition lien such as this is it's treated as a special assessment. And what that means is that it has a lower dignity than something like even a grass cutting lien or a lien for taxes. And so what that would mean is that, for instance, if the county ended up foreclosing on it, collected $20,000, if the taxes are in excess of that, the county gets all that money. We don't even get a percentage of it because a special assessment is of lesser dignity. Even our grass cutting liens are treated as a higher dignity under the general statutes than a special assessment lien. And that's a odd construction of North Carolina law, but that's the way it is.
Well, two things. One is, it sounds to me like we need to try to get the legislature to make some changes in what they allow you to do to take property. The other thing is
as city attorney, I would love if our demolition liens had the same dignity as a county tax lien. The county probably would not like that, but as city attorney, I would love it.
If somebody took the building and made it just for like I'll use the word museum, not for people to be habitable, but just for people to walk through and that type of thing. Are the codes as restrictive for that if nobody's living in it? Just it's like open from 9 to 2 and people are just walking through it. I know it's got to be safe.
Yeah, nobody's going to be walking through it anytime soon. It doesn't look like.
But that's what I'm saying.
I mean, we could evaluate that when the time comes. I mean, there's zoning issues as far as things like that. I just getting the question now, my thinking is that there would probably have to be some change in the use of that property that may have to come before city council if that was the case. It's a possibility, yes.
But here, I think everybody sitting up here will recognize that if you go into areas where there are quite a few houses that are in bad shape, just for lack of a better word, but in the last couple of years, there have been houses that maybe not look quite as bad as that one, but there's been some bad looking houses that people have gone in and spent a lot of money on them, and they look nice now, and they're back on. I'm sure when they're reevaluated, they'll be certainly much more higher in the tax bracket. Plus, they're giving people a lot nicer place to live at. I mean, do you all not see that when you're out riding around housing?
Well, I share the city manager's opinion that if somebody were to decide to get involved in this and contact the city, we would try to be as helpful as we could in
my
achieving that.
Answer to that statement would be that we probably need to do a better job when something like, try to let people know, hey, because if somebody would have known 2 or 3 years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago about this property, could have been watching it and might could have, quote, patched it up a little bit better and kept it from getting in such bad shape. But, it's just a thought. But okay. All right. Thank you for the information. So, let's get back to. We need a motion to adopt this ordinance.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2026.01, directing the code enforcement officer to demolish and remove the dwelling located at 100 Hamilton Street, Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, with a lien to be placed against the real property upon which the cost of removal are incurred.
Okay, the motion on the floor is by Councilman Jackson. Do you hear a second to the motion? Second by Councilman Bell. I know, Ms. Bryant. Give me a little bit more time. Is there any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion will be approved. All right. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Ms. Johnson?
Good evening. This one. Good evening. We have a budget amendment. The police department received a donation from Tractor Supply in the amount of $250. So I'd like you to adopt ordinance 2026.02.
Okay, if nobody has any questions, we need a motion for the adoption.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2026.02 in the amount of $250 for a donation to the police department.
Okay. Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Bryant, and the second is by Councilman Steinbach. Is there any more discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion will be approved. Thank you.
The fire department received a donation from Tractor Supply in the amount of $250. So I would like you to approve ordinance number 2026.03.
If there are no questions, we need a motion on the floor.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2026.03 in the amount of $250 for a donation to the fire department.
Motion by Councilman Strickland and a second by Councilman Jackson. Any more discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion will be approved. Next.
The next one is the fire department was awarded the AFG FEMA grant in the amount of $6,366.53. So I ask you to approve budget ordinance 2026.04.
Okay, you hear a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2026.04 in the amount of $6,366.53 for the AFG FEMA grant awarded to the fire department.
Okay, motion is by Ms. Bryant. Do you hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Steinbach. Any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion will be approved. Next.
The senior center received the SHIP grant funds in the amount of $5,067. So I ask you to adopt budget ordinance 2026.05.
Okay, need a motion for the senior center.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2026.05 in the amount of $5,067
Okay,
for
I'm
the
sorry.
the senior citizen grant funds awarded to the senior centers.
All right, the motion by Councilman Bell. Do we hear a second to his motion by Mr. Jackson? Any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion will be approved. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And Ms. Trainer, the budget calendar?
Okay. Just when we get through one calendar year and complete audit preparation for fiscal year 2025, it's time to move on to planning for fiscal year 2027. The attached budget calendar is set forth as a tentative timeline or timeframe of goals and expectations as far as progressing through the stages of development of the budget for the fiscal year that begins on July the 1st of 2026 through June the 30th of 2027. The first step being that all department heads prepare their budgets and submit those for review. The finance director and I, we sit down and review those internally. At some point, we do receive some information from the state about how to estimate and what to estimate for on our other revenues. And then we review the requests and the proposed budgets with the city council members. That was proposed to take place late March, early April. And then we make final budget revisions. According to this calendar, what we're proposing, and these dates can be modified, but to present the recommended budget and message to the council on May the 5th and hold a public hearing on May the 19th. June the 2nd would be a proposed date for adoption of the budget, with June 16th being an alternate date for approval, or if additional time is needed. The fiscal year 27 budget would have to be adopted no later than June the 30th to move forward with the new fiscal year. So, subject to your questions, that concludes my report, and ask for your consideration to accept the fiscal year 27 budget calendar as proposed.
Does anybody have any questions of the city manager? If not, we would need a motion to approve this.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept the City of Roanoke Rapids fiscal year 2027 budget calendar.
Okay, the motion is by Mr. Steinbach. Do we hear a second to his motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bryant. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion will be approved. And the city manager's report.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. A copy of the report is provided in front of you, but would like to go through this as well. Just as a reminder, the Halifax County Intergovernmental Association will meet next week on Wednesday at the Griffin Center. The town of Weldon is hosting that event. Earlier this month, our police chief was recognized at Nash Community College for successfully completing the requirements that were imposed upon him or prescribed by the North Carolina Justice Training and Education Standards Commission in order to transfer his South Carolina certification to North Carolina. Since beginning his employment with the city last March, he's been lawfully working under a probationary certificate, and Chief Wiggins completed all of those requirements in December this year, and so just join us in congratulating him for his dedicated efforts and completion of that task. This week he is attending the North Carolina Association of Police Chiefs Conference, and he'll be back in town on Friday. To give notice, you might hear us say this more often than not, but we, as part of our cybersecurity improvements, our city-issued emails are being replaced, or effective January the 12th, with a .gov extension. We will still receive emails that are sent to the .com extension for a period of 5 years to ensure a seamless transaction, but we are asking people to update their contacts for us to use the .gov. At some point, we will be updating our website to a .gov extension as well. These activities are part of a fiscal year 24 state and local cybersecurity grant program that's implemented by the State Emergency Management and funding from FEMA as well, with all of these projects to be completed by the end of the calendar year of 2027. The skate park at Emery Park is almost completely done. The concrete work was completed at the end of December and has set. We will talk about an official grand opening upon completion of other necessary site work, including installation of lighting to be completed by Dominion Energy, installation of fencing. One section of fencing is expected to be donated, and the budget will cover the remainder of the fencing and also facility signage as well. So it's a park it's a construction that has been long awaited, and commending our community for the fundraising efforts in order to make that happen. Last week on Tuesday, the fire department was surveyed by the Insurance Services Office under the State Fire Marshal, where every 5 years the department services are evaluated to effectively render a insurance rating scoring. But things are looked at like as far as department operations, water supply distribution, emergency communications, and efforts to prevent and reduce fire risk. The last time we had this done, our rating improved, and we're hoping at this point to maintain, if not improve, that score as it affects residential and commercial property insurance rates throughout the city. And I'd like to thank our staff, especially the planning department, and our fire department, especially fire chief for his work on that, planning department for their assistance in the records, as well as Sanitary District and Halifax County Communications for providing the information into that survey. Last week, a Main Street Committee meeting was held, the very first, well, I guess the second one, but the first one in person. And we welcome Charles Hassel with the State Main Street Program. He led the group through an economic asset inventory exercise, and I put in here in quotes from what he said, successful economic development is about what you have, about what you do have. And so in upcoming months, the Main Street Committee will be planning a spring event, developing a 5-year strategic plan, and also the state will be coming in to take professional photos and videos of all of their Main Street communities. The next meeting will be held on Monday, February the 9th at City Hall. Last week, or on the 8th of January, a regional YMCA exploratory meeting was held in Northampton County with representatives from multiple counties and jurisdictions. There seems to be a regional interest in providing a YMCA facility. A location has to be determined, but attendees learned that starting a YMCA requires strong local partnerships and significant fundraising. The initial steps require the establishment of an exploratory steering committee and the initiation of a third-party feasibility study and community needs survey, which estimated costs are $25,000 to $35,000 just to get that part of it started. One of the key, I guess, needs we heard during that meeting was, especially in Northampton County, access to a swimming pool. And so there's, like we said, this is just the initial process to explore the possibility of developing a YMCA in our region. On the 27th of January at 10:30 a.m., the Halifax County Health Department will conduct health education programming at the Senior Center. Our staff continue to pursue reimbursement funds from the North Carolina State Emergency Management Division from the May 2025 windstorm, where we sustained a significant amount of damage. Our action item, we had a budget amendment to present for you tonight, but we're regrouping some of those numbers and to get a good idea of those final costs, and we'll come back to you with that. We do know that the current costs are exceeding the allocated $250,000 for cleanup from that storm. And again, the city collected and processed over 12,000 cubic yards of downed trees and limbs from that storm event. The Collegiate Summer Baseball League is still, we are working still to finalize a 1-year agreement. And for the 2026 Summer League season, for games to be held at Doyle Field within the T.J. Davis Athletic Complex. The initial term, like I said, is for 1 year, but multi-year would be approved, subject to approval by City Council in accordance with General Statute 168-272. Excuse me. Priority use of Doyle Field is afforded to Roanoke Rapids High School and the Roanoke Rapids Youth Baseball Association. The Collegiate Summer League has proposed a tentative schedule of games that would begin in late May and would conclude by August the 1st. The Tidewater Division, of which a Roanoke Rapids team would be included, includes a team from New Bern, the Outer Banks, Elizabeth City, Edenton, and Tarboro, and all of their players are currently playing for college teams and reside either in North Carolina or multiple states away, depending on their college or university. And this is a great opportunity for tourism and pride in our community as well through baseball. Celebrating America's 250th in Halifax County, North Carolina. Throughout 2026, North Carolina will recognize its prelude to independence by celebrating the 250th anniversary of Halifax Resolves. There are several activities that are planned to take place throughout Halifax County, especially in historic Halifax throughout the year. Halifax 250 merchandise is available for purchase online and at local retailers with proceeds to support education and celebrations. All people are encouraged to participate in Red, White, and Blue Fridays. It shouldn't cost anyone anything to do so if you have any red, white, and blue in your apparel. Red, White, and Blue Fridays throughout 26, and more information is available at visithalifax.com/250. And the Canal Walk subdivision, of 20 building permits that have been issued, 4 homes are completed and 16 are in progress. We are seeing a uptick in our permitting and inspections compared to previous years. I intended to have a 2025 calendar year accomplishments to present to you tonight, but we will postpone that to the February meeting. But with that being said, a glimpse into this in the calendar year 2025, the planning department issued 113 permits, and the construction value of those permits was over $18 million. And we've also seen a surge in single-family residential development, and our building inspectors have completed, let's see if I can say this right, more inspections this past year than they have in any year since 2008. So it's good news for us, and that's taking into effect the changes in the general statutes that have reduced the number of inspections that we have to do over the years. So our inspections team is busy, and that redevelopment of sites, such as the site we were talking about tonight at 100 Hamilton, there's opportunities present. A lot of times it's the logistics and the purses that come together to make something happen. And then lastly, I just want to add to, and Mr. Brodsky, I guess, has stepped out, but the pavement management study is underway. The firm has been retained to complete that under our PAL bill eligibility funding, and so they are doing the inventory starting this month, and those results will be presented to the council. Subject to your questions, that concludes my report.
Is that not what Mr. Brodsky was asking us about, if we had any? So could you let him know what we're doing on that, and sometimes when it might be finished and what they come up with?
Yes, sir.
Can you, Kristen, can you tell us just a little bit about the housing that's going on out on 125?
So for a long time, you've heard me talk about development at Cross Creek Parkway. Can you hear me now? For a long time, you've heard me talk about developments at Cross Creek Parkway. Well, it looks like those are finally coming to fruition. One of the development owners, who is Takata Lake Development, is in the process of starting their development. You may see some culverts and things like that, construction entrances for 82 single-family dwellings that have now started. It may take some time as they have to do some street construction and things like that, but this is a project that we've collaborated with the developers, engineers, DOT, Halifax County. Everyone came to the table to make this happen, so I'm glad to deliver this news to you.
Did you say 82?
82.
And they'll be
Single family.
Would they be standalone houses? Or
Correct.
no condos? Would be. You have any idea about the footage?
Not at this
What size
point,
houses?
not at this point, because we just have the lots set up for that, but the building permits should come in soon. Right now, they're just focusing on site and getting the lots and everything, the streets set up.
And all that property is in the city limits, is it
That's
not?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And within that subdivision of Cross Creek, there was some talk from the other developer on the, I guess, the west side of Cross Creek Parkway, expanding the townhome development. So again, additional housing, but the longest holdup in most of this required a lot of patience and diligence on part of our staff and the developers as well to try to get the driveway permitting through DOT, which took several years, but we've made it this far and look forward to that continued successful development of that property.
They got a lot of equipment out there and a lot of pipe. They're moving along. Okay, I think item 9 is our other business. And wait a minute, no, we got finance report. I'm sorry.
I didn't know if you were looking at me or her. so.
Yeah, your report is so good, I would think we ought to hear it.
Okay, all right. For December 2025, our year-to-date receipts was around 11.8 million, and our year-to-date expenditures was around 9.5 million. So revenues exceed expenditures by 2.2 million. And so we are in good financial standing for December. And the month of December is always a higher expenditure due to the Christmas and longevity bonuses approved by City Council, and we appreciate that. Do you have any other questions? Well, that's collected by the county. They say they'll collect, 98, 99%, but that's based on, we only collect what the county sends us that they have collected.
And those are for, I actually asked the finance
Okay.
director of this question last month, and that is for prior year taxes, not current year paid, so it depends on how quickly people catch up on taxes that are owed from the past, and so there's just a...
Yeah, I knew what it was, I was just looking at it, but of course you explained it, it's 99 control of the county.
Right.
And it depends on how willing people pay their tax bills, but as properties change ownership, typically the tax bills get paid.
I know how it is for Christmas and December and January, they give you until what, 5th, 6th or somewhere around in there, so we're kind of not running with that dates right now.
That's right.
Okay. All right,
All right,
thank you.
ma'am. Okay, item 9 is other business for executive session and closed session. We need a motion and state the reason and the statute.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Go ahead, you got to do the statute and the reason.
All right, from statute, make a motion to go into closed session, recording, discuss personnel, matters allowed by North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11.
Second.
Okay, the motion is by Councilman Bell and second was Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion will be approved. We'll take just a real big recess.